and we're going to go ahead and get started. There may be a few others that are joining us. I know we had several that had registered. We are welcome. I guess I probably should say good evening. I'm used to saying good morning. My name is Dietrich. I am the Director of Recruitment and Admissions here on the Worcester campus of Ohio State, and as part of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. This is the financial aid night. We would love for this to be as interactive as possible. We want to make sure that tonight you all walk away with all of your questions answered. So please, at any time, feel free to either unmute and we will go ahead and answer those questions if you're comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that and you would like to type in a question into the chat, feel free to do so. I will be monitoring the chat and making sure that we get those questions answered for you as we go along. I'm going to go ahead and add in the admissions checklist that you all certainly could use. I may end up doing that a couple of different times just so anyone who joins us as we go along has the ability to click on that. So for those of you who would like to look at that, this is a really good resource for you to follow as you're going through the financial aid process. So please feel free to go ahead and download that. It is in the chat, and we'll go ahead and move forward from there. That is pretty much all I'm going to say. I will make sure that I'm around should any of you, like I said, have any questions outside of financial aid. But I am, at this point in time, going to turn it over to the coordinator of student financial aid on our campus, Julia Morris, who will take it away from here. Julia, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dave. All right, good evening, everybody. As Dave mentioned, my name is Julia, and I'm the coordinator of student financial aid. I see some familiar names up here this evening, so I appreciate you taking the time to join in and learn a little bit more about financial aid. So as Dave mentioned, you do have a checklist. If you have applied for admission with Ohio State ATI, normally within the first week or two that you have submitted your application, I do send that checklist in the mail, as well as an estimated cost of attendance sheet and a letter with some good information. So hopefully some of you have received that in the mail if you have applied. But the topics we're going to cover this evening, we will be going over some frequently asked questions in regards to financial aid in the FAFSA. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. We're going to cover some scholarship information with Ohio State, and as well, we'll wrap up with awarding and some helpful tips. All right, so we're going to jump right into some frequently asked questions. So this might be a simple one for some of you and maybe not for others, but what exactly is financial aid? It is money to help pay for college, and it can come in a variety of formats. The first one I'm going to cover would be gift money, which is free money, and that could come in the form of internal or external scholarships. And as I mentioned, a topic tonight, I will be talking about the internal scholarship opportunities with Ohio State ATI and the university as a whole. But external scholarships would be anything that you may be applying for within your local communities, statewide, nationally, through your high school, and a variety of different avenues there. Other gift money would be federal, state, or institutional grants. So when you submit a FAFSA application, that allows University Student Financial Aid to put an award package together for you based off of your need to see what types of grant aid you may be eligible for. And I have some examples listed there for you to see. Earned money would be through federal work study. So, and I'll cover this topic here in just a moment as well, but just kind of a brief little overview. Basically, federal work study, if you are awarded and you accept it, you then apply for a job and you earn that money in the form of a paycheck throughout the academic year. And then there is borrowed money. Borrowed money could be through direct federal student loans, whether it's subsidized, which is considered a need-based loan, which means interest is not accruing if you do accept your subsidized loan. Unsubsidized would be a non-need-based loan, so the interest does accrue on that. But these are loan offers that students receive if they do submit a FAFSA application. Parents then have an option to apply for a Parent Plus loan, which is a federal loan as well, to help assist their student through school. And then lastly would be private loan options. Some private loan servicers you may have heard of before would be maybe Discover, Sally Mae, possibly where you bank through, Citizens Bank, PNC Bank, College Avenue. So there's a lot of different ones out there if you would have to explore private loans. But sometimes I do get the question, hey, I've submitted my FAFSA, I didn't get any financial aid. Well, sometimes students are only offered student loans. So do keep in mind that is considered financial aid, but hopefully you'll have maybe some gift money and some earned money offers in there too. What is the FAFSA and how often do I apply? So again, FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid at fafsa.gov. It is an application you will complete every year that you're going to be enrolled in college. So if you're a senior now, hopefully you have done it or will do it by next Monday, February 1st, because that's our priority deadline for Ohio State. But if you're in your first year of college, you're going to do it then for your sophomore year and so on. The time frame every year, it's available every October 1st. And our priority deadline every year is February 1st. So between October 1 and February 1 is when you're going to want to mark your calendar to make sure you're getting your FAFSA completed and submitted to Ohio State University. The FAFSA is based off the prior tax year, and this really helps to simplify getting an income information and completing the FAFSA application. So if you're completing the 21-22 FAFSA for this upcoming school year, so like this upcoming autumn and spring semesters, it's going to be based off the 2019 income tax year. All right, what is an FSA ID and who needs one? So this is essentially the first step before you even start your FAFSA application by going to the fsaid.ed.gov website, stands for Federal Student Aid ID. Each student needs a FAFSA, so once you're the student, and then at least one parent. So that's your way of logging into your FAFSA, signing your FAFSA electronically. It's going to be your login for other federal student aid processes along the way. And it's a username and a password that you're creating. You can use a email address that you have for a username, or if you want to create a whole different unique username, you can do it that way too. I only suggest that do not use a high school email address, as your high school email will eventually go away once you graduate. So if you have like another Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo of some sort, use one of those email addresses instead. So how do you complete and submit a FAFSA application? It is an electronic application and it's done at fafsa.gov. That little screenshot there is what the homepage looks like when you first pull it up. Again, make sure if you're applying for this upcoming school year, you're completing the 21-22 FAFSA. You will find that this current year, so students who are currently in college with us that completed the 2021 FAFSA application, you will still see that available. So make sure that you are completing the one that says 21-22. In the school section, it will ask you what schools you'd like to submit your FAFSA application. Please put down 003090. That is for Ohio State University, and it will say all campuses in parentheses. We're one university, so we only have one federal school code. So you can search for us. So if you do search for Ohio State University, or you can enter that 003090. Again, as I mentioned, it's going to be based off the 2019 income tax year. So some documentation you want to have on hand when you're going to sit down and start this process if you haven't already. Make sure you have your 2019 federal income tax returns if you filed, any W-2s from that year, have your social security numbers, both for the student and parents, and any bank statements, most recent bank statement that would be. There is an IRS data retrieval tool in the FAFSA that helps transfer in your 2019 federal income, and it's really convenient to use, and I'll cover that here in just a moment. But once again, our priority deadline for this upcoming school year is next Monday, February 1st. All right, so what is the IRS data retrieval tool? So this does allow parents and students that have filed a U.S. tax return to transfer in their information from the IRS when it's prompted when you're at that income area for either the student or the parents when completing your FAFSA. The benefits to this, it is secure, it's easy to use, it's going to take you to the IRS website, it's going to let you know that, you're going to confirm a few things, and then it will allow you to, and then it will transfer in and take you back to your FAFSA application. So as you're continuing through with some other income related questions, you will see that some areas will say transferred from IRS. So, and again, it helps for accuracy too, making sure things are exactly what's reflected on your income tax returns. And you may be less likely to be selected for verification. And I'll cover verification here in a few moments, which means, we might need a copy of your 2019 tax return. So as I mentioned early on about federal work study, so what is that exactly? It is part-time employment for undergrad students who do have financial need and allows them to help earn money through school to help cover some educational expenses. So there's a question on the FAFSA that will ask you, are you interested? It's a yes, no, or maybe. I do encourage you to check yes, even if you're not sure if you want to work and get a campus job. It doesn't hurt to say yes. If you're offered, you don't have to accept the money, but if you are offered and you'd like to apply for a job on campus to earn those funds, then you can accept it and apply for a job on our campus then. Do keep in mind too that even if you are not eligible for federal work study, we do have other campus employment for our students. So there are other various opportunities as well. What is the student aid report? So as you get through your FAFSA application and you go to submit, federal student aid is going to then email you an electronic document of your FAFSA information. So it's going to give you a rundown of what your possible eligibility for federal aid would be, as well as a list of all the answers to your questions. So there's a lot of acronyms in financial aid. So this is called the Sar Report. So again, that's the student aid report that's going to have all of your info that you did submit on the FAFSA. What is an EFC? So EFC stands for Expected Family Contribution. And this is an index number that once you do complete your FAFSA, this would be info on your SAR report as well, so you would know it yourself. But that information is sent along with everything else to the schools you list on your FAFSA application. So the formula that is used is the estimated cost of attendance minus your EFC number will equal the student's financial need. So then that number is used with University Student Financial Aid to calculate and determine what kind of federal grants, work study, loan options, state aid, or institutional aid you may be eligible to receive. And I'll also cover just briefly like what's captured in the cost of attendance. It's both direct and indirect cost. So direct costs are going to be your tuition and fees, campus housing, meal plan, those types of initial fees that you would see. I know not everybody lives on campus, so maybe you wouldn't have living expenses, but you would have tuition and fees. Your indirect costs would be books and supplies, if you're buying groceries, transportation, putting gas in your car, your vehicle, miscellaneous personal expenses. So that's factored in as well when it comes to that estimated cost of attendance. But I always do like to note, because some people see their EFC and they're a little alarmed at maybe what number pops up once everything is calculated. But that EFC number is not the amount of money your family will have to pay for college, nor is it the amount of federal student aid you're going to receive. Again, it's used in this formula as an index number to determine your financial need amount in order to award you. All right, so this isn't quite a question, it's a little bit more of a statement here, but the what, why, and how of verification. So what exactly that is? So sometimes when we receive a FAFSA application, University Student Financial Aid may select you for verification, and it's not uncommon by any stretch of the means, but we may need to verify your income tax information, W-2s, your dependency status. Those are kind of the top reasons maybe why you're selected for verification. Sometimes we need to verify a social security number or your high school completion status. So there could be a few other things in there. The why, it does ensure accuracy and allows us to make sure that we are awarding you the most financial aid possible. And again, it's common. So if it does happen, it's not out of the ordinary. And it doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong on your FAFSA. It just may be that you were randomly selected and we're just making sure everything is good to go. How then you want to make sure, like, how do you know if you are selected? Make sure you are logging into your OSU email account or into Buckeye Link, checking your to-do list. University Student Financial Aid will email you, letting you know you've been selected to log into Buckeye Link in order to load those forms and get those completed and back into us. We do put down a due date. Normally it's 45 days from when it's put on your to-do list. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contact information at the end. And then there are options on the bottom of the forms on how you may submit them. Right now, due to COVID, there are several that are still working remotely. So there's a way that you can securely upload through our document uploader on our financial aid website. That's listed on those forms, or you can mail or fax, and those are a Columbus fax number and a Columbus mailing address. Okay, so those are some of the frequently asked questions I wanted to go over. So we're going to jump into scholarship information now.
Julia, before you jump into that, just out
Yep,
of, I know this comes up for with a lot of families as well. What happens if they miss the priority deadline of February 1st to filing the FAFSA?
sure. Yep. So obviously it's called a priority deadline, so it's not a hard deadline. You can still submit the FAFSA application after February 1. The big reason we do have a priority deadline is because uh, there's so much financial aid out there that is available for students. So if you want to get, top priority on what your financial need may be, it's really imperative that you do have it in by February 1. But you can still continue to get that FAFSA submitted to us after February 1. I would always tell anybody, even if it's after that deadline, to make sure you are still submitting it to be looked at and eligible for financial aid. I would never, discourage a family to not do it since it's after February 1. So please do. Sometimes we have students over the summer that decide on our campus last minute and they're just now, getting their FAFSA or adding us as a school, and they can still be eligible for aid. So most certainly you could still do so. Any other questions right now, Dave?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
If anyone has any, feel free to jump in or add it to the chat. Otherwise, go ahead and continue on, Julia, and we'll
Okay.
get to the end. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so scholarship information. We have an Ohio State ATI scholarship application. It's part of our College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. The checklist that Dave provided in the chat does have this link, and you can also find it on our ATI website as well. Priority deadline is February 15th, so that is coming up here in the next couple of weeks. You just have to have applied for admission in order to get this one filled out. You can go to the website and it will tell you everything that we're going to be asking of you, so you can take a look at it before you start getting that completed. But I highly encourage that you get the scholarship application in by the priority deadline of February 15th. It does stay available just like the FAFSA after February 15th. But Katie Lemaster, she does manage our scholarships, and February 16th, she'll start pulling them all in and she'll start reviewing. So it is really important that you do try to get that application in by February 15th. The second opportunity then for OSU scholarship opportunities would be through Scholarship Universe. It just changed its name in November. It used to be called our Special Scholarships. Either of those web addresses will get you to the right location. You do log in with this one. So if you have your last name dot number and your password set up, you'll need that in order to log into the Scholarship Universe. But this will allow you to apply for both internal and external scholarship opportunities. It does filter in some of your information from when you applied for admission, which kind of helps simplify the process a little bit. But they're going to ask a variety of different questions. That way, it can match you up to various external scholarships and internal that fit your profile or your academics or what you've been involved in, maybe where you're from, a county or certain county, a variety of different things. So this is something, and it's a portal where you can log in throughout the year and kind of keep tabs on it that way. So this would be the second opportunity for scholarships with the university. Both of these, just like the FAFSA application, is something you need to reapply for every year that you are a student with us. So it's just something, these applications normally come available every October as well, just like the FAFSA. So just kind of put that on your calendar. October every year, start looking these up and getting things in by February then. And then I'm going to wrap up with some awarding and tips information. So here's a little outline of the timeline of awarding. If we do have a FAFSA on file for you by February 1 and you are an admitted student with us, typically by late March, sometimes a little sooner, you can expect to have an award offer in Buckeye Link. The university does not mail out award information. It's all going to be housed in Buckeye Link for you. I mentioned checking your email on a regular basis. University Student Financial Aid will email you when you do have an award posted. It will prompt you to log into Buckeye Link then and view it on your aid summary. Another thing too with financial aid, if you're new to this whole process, especially even your parents in particular, financial aid is divided equally between both terms. So we have an autumn semester and a spring semester. So when you're looking at your award, it will, at the top, it will show you your total award for the year. And then further down, it's going to break it down by both autumn and spring, and it should be divided equally between the two terms. The only exception may be if you have external scholarships. A lot of times donors, when they mail those scholarship checks to the university, will emphasize that they want that dispersed towards the first semester. Sometimes if they indicate they want it divided between both terms, then that's what will be done through the bursar office. But majority of the time we see external scholarships applied to the semester that check is mailed in for. And then later in the spring, typically in April, is when, if you do apply for our scholarships through ATI CFAES, Katie Lemasters, as I mentioned before, she'll be getting those award letters mailed out. So if you are selected and awarded any, that would be an actual letter that you would receive in the mail with instructions on how you can accept that. And finally, just a few helpful tips. I'm assuming majority of you have likely applied for admission, but if you have not yet, there is a question when it does ask you about your social security number. It is optional on the admissions application, but I do encourage students to put down their social security number because that's the main identifier. If you submit a FAFSA application, that's how we link your FAFSA to you as a student with us. If we don't have your SSN on file, we're unable to pull in your FAFSA to consider you for financial aid. And that disclaimer is on the admissions application. So making sure, and if you didn't, we can still get that updated for you. So don't feel like you've lost out. We can still get your social security number updated. Helpful hint number two, I kind of mentioned this throughout, but making sure that you are checking your OSU email, any of that communication. It's not just financial aid, but overall, that's how majority of the university communicates with students is through their OSU email account. So please make sure you are checking that. And to be on time, it is highly recommended, as you know, Dave had asked about the FAFSA deadline. Yes, you can still submit it after February 1, but it is imperative to try to get things in on a timely fashion. And then finally, do apply for scholarships. Please do through our scholarship applications as well as externally. So wherever you're located, you can pull up your local county's community foundation. They should have a scholarship link on there to give you some, whether every county is different, but hopefully various applications that you can complete. Also, your high school guidance counselor offices would have that information, maybe different clubs, organizations you're involved in, church youth group, potentially where your parents are employed. Take a look into those opportunities as well. And finally, I will leave it on here for just a little bit, but my contact information, which I can also include in the chat, and I know it's on that checklist for you to have as well, but you can give me a call or email me anytime. I'm happy to help out. Buckeye Link is basically a help center through the university for all kinds of questions that students or parents may have. The OSU Student Financial Aid website, as well as federal student aid. So studentaid.gov is a great resource and has a lot of common FAQs on there when it comes to federal aid processes. And with that, that is my PowerPoint. So I'll see if there's any questions that I can help address.
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. If you're more comfortable typing it in the chat, I will monitor that and ask that question as well. The one thing while you may be thinking or typing in a question that I will mention, Julia mentioned Buckeye Link often throughout the presentation. When students apply, they will be assigned a name.number, which is what their OSU email is going to be. So for example, my last name is Dietrich, as you can see on the screen. My email address is Dietrich.114. I was the 114th Dietrich, I think, in the system. And that is what students will use to check their email address as they go through. And they'll activate that. And like Julia said, not only financial aid, but orientation information, housing information is all sent to the student's email address. So it is really important that students not only activate their email address, but also check it frequently. And it is something that that we will continue to remind students of as they go throughout the entire process. The other piece of it, Buckeye Link, is the number and contact information there, but you can find the Buckeye Link information in the top, usually right-hand corner of each one of Ohio State's websites. And that's where students will be able to go and check the financial aid and check to see where they've registered for classes after they've been through orientation and those types of things. It is something that students will become more and more familiar with as they go through the process. But it is something I wanted to at least expand on because it's an important part of the students' enrollment process and beyond that, actually, as they go through as an Ohio State student.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we will open it up for any questions that you all might have. Does anyone have any questions?
Say another thing I will mention here, we have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're waiting on, so are you waiting on 2019 tax information to be delivered? Yes. Okay. So that is fine. I wouldn't fret over the February 1 deadline. That way, if you're waiting on that information, one thing you could do if the IRS data retrieval tool is an option that you're able to do while starting the FAFSA application. Assuming that you're waiting on your 2019 income taxes in order to fill out the FAFSA, I mean, you could link it in through the IRS if you're not wanting to wait on that to have, physically in hand. And you can always then go and update your FAFSA later if needed, once you do have your tax information in hand, if there was something that maybe you entered incorrectly. I mean, that's something you could always do too.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. There are a lot of families that attend our particular campus, I guess, in particular, and that typically have to wait for particular taxes to come in and those types of things. So you can estimate on the FAFSA, and in order to be able to meet the financial aid priority deadline, and then go back and make those corrections, as Julia had mentioned.
Yeah, the other thing too, since I mentioned the IRS data retrieval tool again, for parents, if you're married and filed jointly, it should work for you. I do know if you are married and you filed separately, they're unable to pull in individually. So it won't be an option if that happens to pop up. But Dave mentions a great point there. You can do estimates at the moment and then go back in later and do the update. And then just make sure you resubmit. So just don't go in and update. Make sure you actually go in and resubmit it then to us.
And the retrieval is like when you're going in and filing the FAFSA, it's actually a link in the FAFSA application, isn't it, Julia?
Yes.
If you click on it, it will take you to the website where you can download those taxes if they're completed.
Correct.
Good question, Jennifer. Other questions?
The other thing I was going to just briefly mention, if you weren't already aware, but Ohio State does often a tuition guarantee for our Ohio residents, which means with starting this upcoming autumn, whatever the tuition fees are set at for this upcoming school year, your student is guaranteed those tuition and even housing rates with us their following year too, or however long they're with us at Ohio State ATI. That also means, let's say if you're in an Associate of Science program where you'll eventually transition down to the OSU Columbus campus to finish your bachelor's degree, whatever the tuition rate is set for Columbus students this fall, you're part of that same cohort. So you would receive those same rates whenever you venture down to the Columbus campus. And I do have that info is on our website. It's on the OSU main website as well too, about the Ohio State tuition guarantee.
I know that I tried to keep up just right after Julia had clicked off of a slide with some of the information. Julia, do you mind uploading that presentation to the chat?
Sure.
To download that as well.
Yep, I can do that here.
That way you guys have some additional information. I also, as you noticed, plugged in or downloaded the autumn estimated cost of attendance for the 21-22 year. Again, those are estimates. Usually the Board of Trustees sets those costs in place at the board meeting, either in June or July. So you won't, the estimates are usually pretty accurate, but I wanted to let you know when to expect to see kind of the finalized version of the costs later on in the process. I would be sooner, but it is.
And what University Student Financial Aid also does, and they'll probably have them posted soon. I haven't seen them yet, but they will actually post, when I talked about estimated cost of attendance, that will be on their sfa.osu.edu's website, which will pretty much, it's earmarking what's going to be proposed to the Board of Trustees. And normally speaking, it's going to be really close to what that estimated cost is once the board reviews it over the summer for the upcoming school year.
So while Julia uploads that PowerPoint for you, there it is.
Yep.
We'll take one more last call for any questions before we decide to go ahead and end. Any last minute questions? Okay. Well, we hope that you found this helpful. If you do have questions, like Julia said, her contact information is in the PowerPoint. My contact information is on the admissions website as well. Feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we will make sure that we get any questions addressed for you as you move forward in the process. But we are very happy that you joined us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening. And we will kind of stick around here for a minute too if someone has an individual question that they would like to ask us as well as people log off. So thank you again for joining us. And again, have a nice evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, Julia. That's it. Stop.
That's a wrap.